So South Africa got sanctions for certain things, and then they were secretly trading these weapons. Oh yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time.
What
all around
countries?
the world.
What countries were they?
Oh, God, they were.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I made this mistake with one guess, whereas we talked for 40 minutes and no one knew what they did.
Right.
And I didn't set the scene. So, what do you do?
Right. So, Thibault Makor, and I have a company called Better Business Strategies. And essentially what I do is I help business owners find the free time to be able to work on their business, or if they wanted to spend it with their family. And it's about getting the structures and the systems right in their business so that they actually have that free time.
It's a common thing. A lot of businesses don't have that time. And, we were talking in another podcast about technicians. So they tend to be very competent in a certain area, but as they reach a scale or try to remove themselves from the business, they I guess, find challenges. So what made you, get into that? Like, I've heard some stories about you being an underwater hockey player.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right word, but...
It is correct.
Yes, okay, good. So let's go back. So South Africa.
Yes.
So you're raised in South Africa till how old?
Yeah, so I was Dutch born, grew up, I was born in Amsterdam, and my parents moved to South Africa when I was a young child. So I grew up there and moved around the country when I was a young child quite a bit. My dad moved around various cities, but eventually ended up in a place called Potchefstroom, which is 100 kilometers south of Johannesburg.
Okay.
Right. And that's where I did my high schooling, and I did my university degrees, and got involved with underwater hockey when I was still at school. And I think I was probably one of the youngest players to have made the provincial side at the time. So it was quite something to think back on, actually.
Yeah.
And then I did my university after hours, so I worked during the day, and then went to study at night, and still did the sport as well.
Wow.
At a provincial level.
What were we doing for work? What was your first job?
Yeah, so my first job, well, if you want to go back that far,
go on.
the first one is being a teller for a retail store.
A teller?
Yeah, so typing out the numbers that people had to pay for.
What was that like with the machines back then? Because I was a checkout operator. I said checkout.
Well, I guess it's a checkout operator is the actual word, correct?
Yeah, okay. So what are the machines like? Are they fancy, or you had to do it in your head?
I guess they were very similar to today, because those were the first electronic ones that had been brought in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at the time. So it's very similar to what you've got today, except nowadays you just got all the scan stuff. In the old days, you had to ring up everything individually.
Wow. Did you start memorizing numbers like Rain Man?
Just about. But I remember my very first day. I rang up somebody's bill, and it came up to a balloon number of some sort, and the guy looked at me and he said, "This is impossible, it can't be right." And he bought, I can't remember how much it was, and I said, "Well, this is all the stuff." And then we went through it, and in that list I had made a mistake of, I think it was 11,000 Rand or something like that instead of 11 Rand. Somehow I got my fingers twisted out, and so I had to go back and remove that number and put it back in. But it was quite a complicated thing, the supervisor to come in and gave me a few squiggled looks, don't you know how to punch numbers?
Yeah, wow, if it makes you feel better, there was a lady notorious, her name was Josie. She's this older lady, and she was the supervisor, and she had a very high standard of packing. She was gone through the other side, and I was like, "Oh, why didn't you come through my one, Josie?" Because she was buying some food. She's like, "Because you're the grossest, most disgusting packer I've ever seen in my entire life." But then I wanted to prove wrong, so there's actually a competition. I don't know if you had that.
Yes, we did have. Yes, absolutely. The checkout guys had competitions. I actually, I think the fifth day of actual opening as such, I won that day because I got 0 errors.
Interesting, because so in Palmerston North they do a Regent Theatre, so that there's like 200 people there. You get voted in and you compete against the region, and they're cheering it out. Then it just goes silent, and you're just scanning groceries on stage.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, so you did that, and then you studied university. Was it accounting that you studied?
Yeah. So it was the accounting degree. So while I worked during the day, I was at an accounting firm, and in those days we still did articles of clerkship, which is technically an apprenticeship.
Oh, okay.
to do accounting as such, and spent for a number of years there until I got my degree. Then I thought I'd do a bit of a trip around the world. Went to America for a number of months, and then back to Holland for about 6 months. And on my return, I got this nice little letter from the South African Defence Force saying you called up for your 2 years of national duty. So went through that, came out as a full lieutenant. So fortunately they thought I was good enough to be an officer. And actually worked on what's a top secret project at the time, which was even more interesting, I guess.
Is it declassified now?
Oh, yes, it's declassified.
What's the top secret operation?
No, it was the anti-aircraft systems that South Africa had way back then.
So it was a particular defense thing that they created to stop aircrafts coming in. What was so special about it? Can't say.
We were under international sanctions as such, but it was in alignment with several countries around the world that were still open to trading with South Africa. That was the top secret part.
So South Africa got sanctions for certain things, and then they were secretly trading these weapons. Oh yeah.
No, it happens all the time.
What countries?
All around the world.
What countries were they?
God,
I don't want to get you in trouble. But
yeah.
You're gonna wake up.
Look, I mean, don't know, France, Britain, and Chile, and there was one other. Can't think of it right now.
So they are officially not trading with you, and then they would sneak it on a boat or
Yep. All of that was happening all the time.
Oh, dude, man, you got to give us more insights. I know you want to talk about business advisory, but what is actually that world like? The whole industrial complex that's in the military industrial complex that's in the USA and that sort of thing. And I personally find it quite hard to differentiate what's true and what's not.
So the military industrial complex is the key proponent of all wars around the world.
Okay, well, we got. Do you want to unpack that?
No, I don't want to unpack that. That's going to tread into an area that a lot of people will call me a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, damn it. Okay, we'll move on. Well, if off air, if everyone ever wants to ask you about it, can they?
Absolutely.
Okay, good to know. So next thing, so you do your lieutenant. So did you practice as that, or you just got the officer thing and then moved?
Well, no, you have to go through boot camp and you have to go through officers training course, and then you finally get the stuff.
What's that like? What's the
really tough?
Yeah,
yeah. Look, I mean, the South Africans at the time were at war with the Soviets and the Angolan defense forces there. So we had a border war with Angola through Southwest Africa, or now called Namibia. So we were fighting a war.
Yeah. So did you?
Oh no, I wasn't placed on the border because I was on this secret project.
Gotcha.
We were placed in a, I guess, safer place.
Yeah, but you were sneaking these boats off.
Yeah,
good on you. All right, so you lead that, the war. I don't really know much about war and history. So then as I was nearing the end of my 2-year military service, my ex bosses asked me to become a partner in their firm. And I was thinking of going to bigger business in Johannesburg or somewhere else, and I tossed it all up, and then I said, okay, let's give it a go for a few years. And within a year, I was made the general manager of the business, being a partner as well. But and one of the key things that came out of it, and which stepped me into the direction of what I'm doing right now, was I was given the task of handling the queries from all of the clients that complained about the high fees. Oh yeah.
So it was like, here it is. I've got no training as a general manager, because when you learn stuff in uni, you learn nothing. Seriously.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree.
But in any way, so I had to learn the hard way. And because I'm the type of guy that's always curious, I always wanted to understand why they're complaining. And so I said, this is back in those days, bring us a box of bank statements and till slips and whatever else, and you want us to transform that into financial accounts.
Oh God.
So, and that all takes time. And we also got to make a profit. Every business needs to make a profit. If you don't make a profit, then you won't exist the next year.
Yeah.
It's as simple as it gets. So one of the things that I started asking specifically the business owners was, why are you complaining? And several of them said, we don't see you enough. We only see you once a year. So this is the old dynamic of doing accounting work. You only see your clients once a year. So I took this on board, and I went to my partners then and I said, this is the dilemma that we're facing with. How about we create management accounting reports for our clients, and we give them an option of monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly and half-yearly accounts, and then have a management account or management discussion around all of that and see where they are in their business. Because very often what customers do, and they still do it today, I know some accountants struggle with it, the client just goes out and buys something and thinks that it's all above board and kosher and everything else, and you come to the end of the financial, you say, why did you do it this way? You should have done it this way or that way, and then you got to try and sort out the problem. And so what I found was that many of our clients loved the concept, and most of them took up the quarterly one, but we had several of them that took up the bi-monthly one, and we had one, I think, that did the annual one, the monthly one. But two things happened. We had happier clients. Yeah. Actually, three things happened. Our cash flow got better because suddenly we were getting money on a more regular basis. And the third thing that happened was these business owners that were suddenly getting reasonably good, I call it reasonably good business advice.
Reasonably good.
Because, to be honest, accountants actually don't know the bigger picture of business. Sorry, accountants. But I was one. I was one. But anyway, so the bigger picture stuff was still missing out of everything that we delivered. But the clients loved it so much that they started talking to their mates, and we suddenly got an influx of new clients. When I got into the partnership, we were 9 people. By the time that I decided to leave South Africa 9 years later, 8 years later, we were up to 20 people. Yeah. So because of the influx of new customer or clients as such, and the way that we helped them, we grew sort of like organically, just by word of mouth. We didn't do any, advertising.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack. Like, I'm a strong believer there's cost is only a problem in the absence of value.
Yeah.
And then also the being proactive instead of reactive, because it's a lot easier to prevent a problem than manage the crisis at the tail end of it. Yeah. Do you actually, what was it like? So you got this big book I just find the tech quite interesting. So how would you, here's this big pile of paper, they chuck it at you. What do you do? Do you put it on with their computers?
No, this was all pre-computer days. So, you'd have a ledger and you'd write out the ledgers and do all the, yes, I know. This goes back a long time.
Who do you send it to? So you write it down. You're like, this expense, this amount, blah, blah, blah. And then who gets that? And then someone else reads that?
No. So, generally, if I was... So, the way that it used to work is the client would bring me the information. I would pass it on to my junior at the stage and tell the junior how to do it up. They would write up the ledgers and whatever else, and then give me the final trial balance. And we'd have a quick look through the trial balance, and then I'd give it back to them to draft the financial statements. And from the financial statements, that's when I sit down with the client and we go through the issues around what they've done and what they didn't do. So this is all pre the monthly stuff. Once we got into the monthly stuff, the computers had just started coming in. We had still the old DOS system, which was very slow, and anyway, goes back a long time. We did progress to better computers by the time that I left, but it was still relatively raw. Yeah. It wasn't, a lot of it was still all done by hand.
Did people, I find the interesting part about human psychology is its tendency to repeat itself when there's new innovations. So, like, for example, people dead against TikTok, even though it's a great platform for exposure. They were dead against Facebook when it came out, dead against the internet. When the computer came out, what was the...
Yeah, so one of my staff ladies, she always did the debtors as such, and she had a special machine which, you've got to press many, there's all mechanical machine, and you had to put in the card and pull out the card, and, once you've got the payment paid out, and, gave you a running balance all the time. When we got the first DOS system of running a debtor system, she wanted to run away. It's like, don't want to touch it. I don't even know anything about it. So I had to sit down next to her and slowly but surely work her through how to work it. And I asked her probably about 5 months afterwards, I said, do you want to go back to the old machine? She says, never. So, we cut down her work time and her physical because, you've got to take a card, stick it in the machine, do the stuff, take it back.
Yeah.
So, and this was just run through the system.
Huh. Well, there's an important thing there. I think, there's a lot of proponents at the moment calling themselves change management specialists because it's such a strong resistance for humans to change.
Yeah.
From an organization like that, for an example, if they're implementing a new change, new system, trying to free themselves from the business, is there a process you go through to encourage them to get buy-in from the staff?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. So that becomes part of the overall package that when I get into the coaching side of things and actual business advisory, real business advisory, it's about understanding what it is that they want to achieve, understanding the type of, system, or, electronic systems and or physical systems that they have. So if they've got a machine and it goes through a certain process, you have to understand how it works, and then you can build a system around that so that there's no errors. It's the same with an electronic version. To try and minimize errors, you have to get it through. But as you say, there are still some old-minded ideas around things, and it's about sitting down with them and having them see how easy something can be made if they do it the right way.
Kind of like hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And the majority of people, once they see how the system's working, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, makes sense, breaks it down. There's concept I talk about quite a lot. It's the idea of homeostasis. So it's normally used in chemistry, but it's true in social settings as well. I find the rate of resistance is equal to the rate of change.
Yes, just about.
Yeah, give or take.
Just about.
Yeah, so in psychology, if you want to make a change, they tell you, you do the 2-minute rule. So you don't try and do everything in one day. Don't try and overdo it. Just do 2 minutes of it.
Yep.
And incrementally work towards it.
Yeah.
So is there something outside of, okay, it sounds like you've broken it down. Is there something further that you might do in terms of big picture? Like, do you get emotional buy-in from everyone? Like, everyone sits around the table, you share ideas, you have them be part of the discovery of the system? Or
Yeah. So before we even get into the sort of like the actual systems as such, I usually take a business through the big picture thinking. So, the owners of the business have engaged me, and they said this is what they would like to see over the longer term. And then what I do is I get the whole team together and create what is called the 3 horizons. So this is the 3-year picture. And I say to everybody, I want your input. And I make sure that I engage everybody, because some people just sit like this. So I make sure that I know who their names are, and I pull them up and say, come on, tell us what you want. So I get them to tell me what they want to see in 3 years. And then I step it backwards. And then once you get to the current year of what you want to achieve in the current year, then you break it down into the quarters. And then from the quarters, you break it down into monthly bits, and then make sure that you get the buy-in through that process. When you engage the whole team, magic happens. It's just like, oh my God. The owners are just like, wow, never thought this was possible.
Yeah,
because they always have this fixed idea around some of their employees. It's like, you'll never change them. Yeah.
Well, I think just in humans in general, especially in leaders, is an avoidance of responsibility, blaming others. And I'm a big victim. It's a talent of mine that I get better at it each day. So it's all their fault, not mine.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important part, is that taking responsibility. Either you hired the wrong person, you didn't support them the right way, and as opposed to, hey, there was a guy we were sitting around the circle. It's a networking event. He asked for advice. He's like, I created this system, really great system, but the teachers aren't using it, because he was part of a big teaching organization. And he's like, yeah, like he was saying they were dumb, essentially. That they're too dumb to do that. So when I hear that, I'm like, you created the wrong system.
Or didn't do proper training.
Or didn't educate them. That's a good point too. Good point. So, tools then, interesting. While we're on systems, are there common tools that you see that are quite useful? Like if a business owner wants to know about them?
Look, I mean, if you just talk about simple stuff, accounting systems, Xero. I'm not a big fan of MYOB, but that's out there. There are the accounting systems which make it easier for people to use, because some manufacturing businesses will struggle with something like Xero, and something like a Credo would be a far better fit for them overall as an accounting system. But anyway, all of those accounting products can help, depending on the size of the thing. They can have an ERP system, enterprise resource. Can't think of the last word. But in any case, this is sort of like this encompasses a purchasing, stock control, everything all in one system.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the larger the company, the more they might lean to something that's all encompassing. So that would be one sort of like part of the tool. The second one would be the use of systems in as you mentioned earlier, hiring. People need to go through a certain process. I mean, I'm struggling with one of my clients right now who sees recruiters as a huge expense and doesn't want to go through that process and wants to go through the process of hiring. Well, he's just learnt through his own hiring of 2 people through the old method. It's cost him a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that there are good people out there who can actually find you the right people to fit within your organization. Yes, it might cost you a couple of $1,000 for the process, but don't forget they take on the liability up to a point for a certain number of months. That if the fit doesn't work, they have to either repay or find somebody else. Yeah,
I mean, arguably, well, I would say it's the most important part of your business, and it's also the most expensive.
Quite right.
But it's a valuable expense.
Yeah.
So if you're just rushing, getting any old person in, and then how that impacts culture, it's I think the intangible business parts of business isn't discussed enough. Is where essentially you've got these key people, either they're not motivated, they're in the wrong role, or the culture that isn't there to support them is having a negative impact and eats away at a business. Yeah. Do you see common mistakes either in hiring or in the induction phase, as you say, in the first few weeks?
Yeah, so the majority of businesses don't have an induction phase.
Yeah.
The ones that I've worked with over the years.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I do introduce so that the people can get familiar, A, with the role, and B, with the people in the area and related to their role. I guess one of the key areas in that whole setup is for business owners to understand why they created the role. A lot of them just say, I need somebody to help me with this. And they haven't clearly defined it. They haven't clearly understood what the cost implementation of that would be to their business, how it would impact their bottom line, and how you've got to fix your pricing as such to incorporate another person. When, especially in the SME market, when businesses need to hire a new staff member, the key component of that has to be to free up the time of the business owner. The business owner has one key element in their business, and that is to look at the bigger picture all the time. If they're the type of person that just loves doing, creating something, and they lose track when they have to look at the bigger picture of things, then they need to find somebody that thinks like them but is a general manager and get them to run the business, because otherwise the business will just fall apart. So it's very important that when a role gets created, it is created to free up the time of the business owner. And that's essentially where I spend a lot of my time, is the design of the structure, internal structure, not the structure of whether it's a company or whatever, but the internal structure of what the staffing looks like. And then creating, most importantly, the communication systems between the various people.
Okay.
So every single project or in every single aspect needs to have a feedback loop to the most important person, whether it's the owner or whether it's the boss of that division. They need to know on an almost day-to-day basis or even hourly basis, depending on the type of business, what's going on. And a lot of businesses fall flat in that area.
So what is a good example of a great communication system or process?
So, if you look at a project as an example, a project has got a start date, it's got an end date, and in between you've got certain timelines that you have to meet certain things. And it's about when you see that the timeline is not going to be hit on time, that communication needs to be delivered to the project manager or the owner of the business to say, hey, we're not going to hit next week Tuesday, and here are the reasons why. This is how I think I can solve it, because that's the important thing when you hire people, that they can be problem solvers. Here's how I think that we can solve it and still try and make it on time, and then just get the buy-in from the boss, I guess.
It's a good point. I mean, hiring people to listen to them, hiring people that can think for themselves.
Yeah.
Because, I naturally fall in the untrusting, don't want to delegate phase, but I'm very aware that, that bottlenecks. It's not in their best interest. It's not in my best interest. Is there... I imagine you come against that resistance in a business owner that may not necessarily want to outsource, or might think there's a cost with that and that sort of thing. How do you navigate those conversations, or what do you say?
So the way that I put it to them is the cost factor of hiring somebody has to be taken into account, and it has to be built into the structure of the business and the pricing of it. The way that I address it with a business owner is saying, "Hey, Mr. Business Owner, what would you do with an additional 5 hours a week?" And it was, I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to go out and sell some more. So I've got a very recent example. I had a solopreneur who had he's in the building industry. He had a single team that he would instruct to, help do with some of the stuff. And he came to me and he said he wants to grow. And I said, well, okay, one of the most important things that you've got to do is free up your time. Because he was doing a lot of the doings, nailing the panels in and whatever else. So I said, the most important thing for you is to identify what part of your role is the hardest for you to do. So A, the physical part, and B, the writing up of quotes. So I said, let's find somebody who can do your quotes for you. Because he's already got the team. I said, we need to add in one extra person into the team to, take you off the paneling or whatever it might be that he was physically involved with. His initial resistance was, I can't afford it. And I said, well, let's have a look at your pricing. So we had a look at his pricing, and I said, you've got to bump it up by 15% as a minimum. And he said, but people, I said, that you'll be surprised. No, you will not hear a single peep. He didn't hear a single peep. Nobody said anything about the increased pricing. And then because he had the extra money now, he could hire the person, because this took a 6-month period before he eventually dipped his toes into the hiring market. The result has been not only because he kept his pricing right as such, over the year he's had over 300% increase in his profits, but he's now freed up, or he had freed up enough of his time to go and find more work. The work stacked up so much that he was back on doing the quoting. So he's now at this point that he has to hire the second person.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important thing there. I find I've done a lot of sales training, and I find what people charge is proportionate to how they view themselves.
Oh, absolutely agreed.
Yeah, so that's quite an art. And then even just having someone to say, hey, you should charge this, and then they're shaking and they put the price in front of them, it has an important impact on them. Do you have a process for pricing the job? Do you compare it to markets? Do you just put it out there and test and measure? Or
No, I know what I'm worth. And depending on the size of the business, I just give them a number. And if they don't accept it, it's like, oh, well.
Oh, I mean more for them, like you're helping them through it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you mean for them to understand how
to price their business. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So whenever somebody starts a business, one of the key things that you always got to remember is that you've got to have it ready for sale at any stage.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know when the next Google or whatever suddenly likes your business and says, hey, I want to buy it off you.
Yeah, true.
And if you don't have your structure right, your systems right, whatever, you're going to get virtually zero for it if you do decide to sell. But imagine if everything was working well and your time invested in the business is at a minimum. Let's say it's just at a sales level, but everything else underneath is working like clockwork. an outside investor will look at this business and say, I can replace you, this is the owner, as a salesperson. I've got the system working below me. It's generating income and profits and whatever else. I'll pay you top dollar.
Is there aspects in a business that make it valuable? Because we're in the industry where you're essentially the product, so it's quite like historically how you do is you own the premises that you work in. Maybe you build a brand. Maybe you have systems and process that justify a higher cost for your business when you sell it. What makes a business valuable in your eyes, or to make it perceived as valuable?
The continued opportunity for raising revenue. So if you look at a business of a client of mine that recently sold his business, he decided that he's had enough and he walked away. I sat down with him several years ago and I said, here's a market that you haven't fully tapped out yet. But he said, I don't want to get into that market because one client out of that had already given him so much extra money. It was just not even funny, but he didn't want to go on in that. So we structured his business in such a way that when he sold it now, he got top dollar for it. That owner, if he comes knocking on my door, and I know we're trying to work on him to come and knock on my door. If he does knock on my door, there's an avenue that he may not have considered, where there are, at last count, I think around about 400 different types of businesses in that same genre. And as I said, this one client brought $4 million into my client's business over I think it was a 3-year period.
Yeah.
So if each one of those 400 were tapped at some stage or other, money for jam.
Well, that's an important lesson I actually only learned in the last few months, where I was doing the sprayed approach, direct to consumer, creating content, see what happens. Took a few years. Could have sped it up by focusing.
Yeah.
And there's this concept of the Dream 100. So you make a list of your... have you heard of The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes? It's a book by... he used to work for Charlie Munger.
Can't say that I have. I mean, I've read many sales books, so...
Essentially, what he did is he didn't get a client for 4 to 6 months, and then he doubled revenue sales year on year for 3 years. And what he did is he was a magazine. It was a magazine company. It was like 15th of the list, and the big advertisers weren't in it. So he had a list of 2,200 potential advertisers, and he found only something like 2% of them accounted for 95% of the ad spend. Yep. So all he did was focus on them.
On them, that's correct.
Yeah. So is there a way to identify your Dream 100? So it was 100 of your dream clients. Or is there the pros and cons of not doing that as an approach?
Yeah, look, I mean, my coaches in the past have all said to me, niche, get down into a specific niche and, just explore that niche. I guess my mindset is, I guess, partly there, but not really there. I like dealing with different types of businesses. Yeah. For me, it's just real fun to work with different types of businesses. But I guess over the last number of years, a lot of mine have been in the building trade as such. So I've, I guess, inadvertently shifted into a bit of a niche. But I still work with other businesses as well on the sidelines. I mean, there's people in the horticulture industry that I'm working with, and the hotel brand, not what do you call it? Bed and breakfast type stuff. And, yeah. So I like keeping my hand in a few different areas, because what it does is it gives your mind thing, because you never know when something can cross over to another one. And when you go to one of your current clients and say, hey, have you considered this type of thing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's an underpinning to that is, what are you working for? If you can't enjoy it. Yeah. Delayed pleasure. I mean, I understand that, sometimes you got to put your head down and hustle and suck eggs, but mostly not.
No.
You can focus on what you enjoy and hire people that enjoy doing what you don't.
Yeah. I mean, you're one of the few people that have contacted me out of the blue.
Oh yeah, go
for this type of thing, but even as a potential client, for the first time about 2 weeks ago, a potential client, which we set up a meeting for, and he never turned up with. So anyway, it is what it happens.
Yeah.
But it was the first 2 times that out of the blue I've got a call. Most of all my other work has always been by word of mouth.
Oh, yeah.
It's not sustainable in the long term,
Yeah.
but it's been okay so far.
Yeah, I mean, the best marketing is a great product or service. There's also, you got to ask. The reality is some people have some sort of fear or trepidation about referring, or don't know how, or don't even know what you want.
Yep.
And if you don't even tell them.
Yep.
And I'm pretty shit at asking for referrals, so if it comes, it's cool.
Yes.
Do you have a process for asking?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, what's that one?
Yeah, so, I generally talk, when I've worked with them for several months, it's like, do you feel that you've got value from me so far? And, generally most people say, oh, yeah, this has been awesome. I said, so who do you know that I can add the similar value to?
Okay. Bob, he's got an agricultural business. What happens after that part?
What do you mean?
Like, so you say that part, and then I say, oh, maybe Bob, or I got an idea of someone.
Okay, so then I would ask you the question, why do you think Bob needs my help? So it gives me the opportunity to think about where you think that his problems are. And when I do eventually meet him, because you're going to do an introduction, he might tell me something different. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, Ryan said he's got this problem. Why hasn't he mentioned it in my interview? And then I'll ask questions to try and drag it out of him.
Gotcha. And the introduction is an email?
Yeah, generally email.
Okay.
That's most of the referrals. So I am part of networking as well, and very often my customers need some help, and there are people in my networks that I know can deliver. So usually I'll just do an email introduction, say, hey, this is so and so. They need this type of help, and have a chat and take it from there.
There's a lot of smart things in that, like the concept of the Rain Man. Like you have a network of people where you're seen as the person that provides good clients for them, and then the client comes to you and you're solving all their problems in one place, as opposed to trying to clip the ticket, make money all the time. That relationship, the long-term value of that relationship is more than the transactional benefit you might get.
Yep, absolutely. So I don't. When I do a referral, I don't expect any monetary refund or formats to come back to me. What I do sort of like half expect is that at some stage when they run into somebody that they know I can help, that they sort of like to give me a good word and say, hey, have a chat to T-Ball.
Yeah, well, maybe you're a bit more mature than me. My basic, all I care about is whether they can deliver on what the client needs.
Yeah. So I mean, that is important. I did make that mistake many years ago, where I thought that the person was up to it, and I referred them to my client, and it turned out to be
That's the worst.
Yeah, and so that you also take a dent in the client's estimation of you. And then I did say, look, I'm so sorry. The guy came across as really good about whatever he did, and.
Well, on that, what were your biggest lessons, we'll call them, / failures, you know what I mean? It's not like it's public or anything, though.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think for me it was just learning to trust people more.
Yeah.
So on the face value, most people are actually genuinely good. They really want to help. There are some people out there that are just shysters and will take every opportunity that they can. And I guess in the type of environment that I grew up in South Africa, there was a lot of that, where you didn't always trust everybody straight out because of what was going on. It was just built into the psyche over many decades.
So what do you...
Oh, no, it's just about, you never know whether you can trust the person or not, because they are out to stab you in the back at some stage or other. So you learn to put up some barriers. When I moved to this country, in the beginning, I had a bit of that. Nowadays, I'm a lot more trusting of people. My wife says, but I accept that we all have failures. I mean, everybody has failures. I do too. But it's about understanding that the majority of people actually do want to do good. And it's about trying to identify those quicker than trying to sort of like say everybody's bad. And
yeah, I can relate to the narrative. I instead of, because I sort of see trust as your ability to foresee certain events based on the person's characteristics, and I think that's very hard to do. So what I do instead, and you still make judgments, this person seems ethical, blah, 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 but I focus more on trusting I'll be okay if it doesn't go well. And that could be protecting the client's interests, having clear communication. For me, it's about developing the emotional fortitude. If shit completely hits the fan, I'm good. I have a cry, get angry, and then we're off again.
Yes. So I have a very similar viewpoint nowadays.
Okay.
You know, if it really hits, the shit hits the fan, if you want to put it that way. The way out of that is for me to find a solution for my client, and to try and build up that trust again. If it's something that I did that inadvertently caused problems for my client, like if it was a referral that didn't work out, it's about saying, hey, look, don't worry, I've got another person that I know can actually do this work. Just give me that opportunity again. We'll get this thing sorted out.
Yeah.
And because of generally the goodwill over a period of time, most clients are quite happy to accept that. And, some of our clients have told me in the past, they've said, look, not everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
And, you can't always trust everybody that you refer on. So, that was like a, thank God. But other people have been very like, don't know if I want your referral again.
Do you Yeah, fair enough. Human nature. Is it so? Like, let's say you're referring someone, or you're thinking about it. What's your process in your head? I already don't trust them as a rule, and then work on it. Well, how do
No. Generally, so my network I know reasonably well by now.
Okay.
So in the beginning, it was really hard to find the right type of people.
Okay.
Because you just didn't know. But one of the rules that I've learned over the years, and that's part of the networking side of things, is to have regular coffees and teas and whatever else with them on a regular basis, and so that you can just keep on top of where they are in their thinking on a lot of things. And
yeah, that makes sense. Like recurring meetings. So, what would be your dream team? Let's say you could, what's it called? The superheroes.
Yeah, so you need for business you need a very good accountant.
Okay.
Or 2 or 3 accountants, because accountancy is also based on the connection.
Yeah. So
my client might not connect with you as an accountant, but it might connect with Johnny down the road.
Yeah.
So when I look at the client and I understand who they are, I won't necessarily send them to you straight away, because I know what type of person you are.
Yeah.
And I know that Johnny might be slightly better suited. You might feel aggrieved saying, oh, Thibaut, you never give me anything. But it's like, oh, I will find you the right person at some stage.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, accountants, lawyers,
Okay.
especially commercial lawyers, are very, very important, because a lot of business owners go through transactions that they don't even think they need a lawyer. But when they talk to me, and it's like, maybe you should get some legal advice on this.
That's a good point. So lawyers, accountants, recruitment.
Yes, absolutely, recruiters.
Yeah.
So I've got a connection with several of them. They are not the top end, because I think that most of them are just number crunchers or number pushers. So the guys that I've got are genuine people that connect with people and want to do the best for that client. And so you've got and bookkeepers.
Bookkeepers, okay.
Very, 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 very useful resource for most business owners, because a lot of them end up doing their own accounts. And if I want to free up 3 hours a week from them, I tell them, get yourself a bookkeeper. And they say, oh, but that's going to cost me whatever. And I say, well, okay, let's work out what your hourly rate is actually worth.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly comes out to $300 or $400 an hour. And I'm saying, well, you're going to be paying $65 an hour here. Which one is...
Yeah. Nah, it's fair. I mean, I might even transfer that over to, like, if you're doing your own washing or mowing your own lawn. Like,
yeah,
you can
quite
go to
right.
the next level.
Quite right. Yeah.
There's also some value in it,
Yeah.
Developing the fortitude. So you made a good point, like building the super team. Because, I thought of it in a financial component. So, you got your family lawyers, you got your accountants, you got insurance people. And so and then maybe you have a real estate agent.
Yes, so there's real estate agents, there's mortgage brokers, there's people, designers as such, and printers. And so, if you've got a nice plethora of potential really good contacts that you can trust, you just pass them on.
Well, that's what I'm thinking now. So I started a new business 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good
so
for you.
thanks. So now I'm gonna build that super team because you said it. So I'll just start interviewing some good professional service people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's the vision? What's the dream? Why are you doing all this, mate? What?
It gives me satisfaction.
Yeah.
If I see a business owner take his business and increase the profits and increase the staff size and increase the overall satisfaction, and most importantly, seeing them enjoying their business again. When I get started with them, I remember one client many years ago. I sat in front of him like this for the first meeting to get this thing started. He gave me the keys and he said, "Here, you can take it away." And I said, "Hang on, it's not my business, it's your business. I'm going to help you get it restructured." And it was 9 months later, because they were a family group, that the dad finally accepted me as part of the thing. In the beginning, he didn't want me as part of it because what did I know about this business? I said, "I don't know anything about your business, but I know business."
Yeah.
So I helped them restructure their roles. I helped them restructure a whole lot of things. Got boss off the financial accounts and all of that type of stuff. Got a decent bookkeeper in to look after things. Suddenly he had so much free time. It wasn't even funny. And he was now able to go and talk to some of the bigger boys in the same industry to find more work. And within a year and a half, they'd increased their turnover by a third and increased their profits by a third, of 300% actually, because what they had done wrong was a lot of the way that they'd done their business was costing them a lot of money. So we fixed up a lot of the internal stuff, and suddenly the bottom line looked, holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh no, didn't make enough provision for income tax.
I think there's an important thing. Like most industries I've been the youngest by a few decades, and you know, people might fall in the imposter syndrome. I gotta know this, gotta suit myself. But in actual fact, like that example, all you're really doing is asking the right questions. They have all the answers. So from that place, so let's say you're going to this business, you know, fuck all about it, but you know, business. How do you go about building that trust or showing that value or?
Yeah. So the majority of business owners know the answers.
Yeah.
I tease it out of them by asking questions.
Yeah. So same thing. Okay.
So I make sure that I understand what their bigger vision is, because you know a lot of them would say, "Oh my God, I just hate coming into work because I've got staff to pay, I've got staff issues, I've got problems with my customers, and I don't have enough cash in the bank and whatever else." So I look at the bigger picture and I say to them, what is it that you really want? You know, you started this business and you know, Dutch origin, I'm quite brutal sometimes. I say, the majority of this was created by you. "Oh, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, think about it. You're in control of every single aspect of this business. Where's your time to do anything and actually do a good job at it?" And it isn't until they get that little light bulb going, oh, maybe he's got a point here. And then I step them back and I say, "So what made you think of doing this, or what made you think of doing that?" And so that's how I actually learn about a business.
Yeah, I mean, that curiosity is so important. I think there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
It talks about the best way to be interesting is to be interested.
Interested. Absolutely,
So
dead
valuable.
right.
It's
Very
not easy
much
though. Some people
Well, yeah, no, but I think it's in my nature. It's always been that
same.
way. I'm always interested.
I might be similar to you in the sense that I don't just look at what they're saying, I look at what they're not saying.
Yes.
And if what they're saying I don't relate to, but I'm interested in how they're saying it,
Yeah.
that's how I get through it.
Yeah. So I always try and listen for stuff. So one of the most important things about this role, in comparison to what I used to be as an accountant, was I had to upskill my listening skills. You know, when you're younger, you've got all the answers straight away. It's like you know everything. And this is coming back to being an accountant. And I've spoken to several accountants since then. You know, they all know everything straight away.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on, you've got to understand what the customer is really asking here.
You know, like I've dedicated a lot of my life to be a good listener, and each time I realize how much I suck at it, but how important the skill is. Like, because, like, you know, technically I am a good listener, but in terms of what's possible, because there's that concept of the already always listening voice. So you're thinking about how this impacts me. What should I say next? What are people thinking of me? As opposed to trusting in yourself to have the answer when the conversation stops. like through this whole thing, I was trying to do that. I was like, oh, well, if I talk about this, no, listen. And do you have a process? I know this is a bit out the gate, but to be a better listener, what goes on in your head? Do you just bring it back to them? Do you?
So first and foremost, I try not to interrupt. Occasionally I lose the plot, and then I think, hang on, you're going down the wrong stairs, and try and stop them there. But over the years, I've learned, let them talk. When I know it's rambling, then I stop them. I said, hang on, let's go back to where we need to start off here. But it's very important that I get to understand why they want things. The why is the most important. And once you get that why sorted out, that's when you can start building on a lot of things. So, as an example, why did you start your business 2 weeks ago?
Well, the vision is to give everyone the opportunity to live a fulfilling life. So the reason I started this business is that to be able to reach that goal, I need to have a communications company.
Cool.
So I started one.
That's great. So why did this not start 2 years ago?
Well, fear and doubt. Didn't believe I could do it. But actually, I was petrified of talking to people, so I did commission-only selling. So I went through steps.
So why did you have that fear?
Well, the underlying belief system, I suspect, is not feeling good enough or not feeling deserving of that success.
So why do you have that underlying feeling?
Well,
sorry, I'm taking you through a
no,
process.
we can do it. Yeah. Well, I've spoken about quite a lot in the podcast, but essentially there's a key moment in my development that I took to mean a lot, which essentially, when I was 4, Dad had a gambling problem, Mum couldn't handle it, so she left.
Oh, yep, that'll be a bit of a whack.
Yeah, so I was angry and couldn't understand why. I thought I did something. So she came back after 6 months, and then I was away from Dad for 18 months. So that pivotal development stage makes it hard for me to feel, loved or feel worthy.
Yeah. So think back on that, 4-year-old child. You were going through all of these machinations of feeling unloved and feeling maybe the reason for whatever the split up was at the time. You were 4. What has prevented you from that age to not already take the steps to eradicate some of that thinking?
Yeah, avoidance of responsibility, playing victim. And I think I've taken massive steps, really.
Well, the mere fact you're sitting here is already a testament to that.
Yeah, and my process of getting through it is incrementally expressing the parts that are hard for me to express, and then getting a positive response in the sense that I'm around people that love and care for me, and just making a conscious effort to continually do that.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah. Look, I know I went down the deep end fairly quickly with you. I don't always go down that far with clients, but it was more to understand why you didn't start your business a little while earlier rather than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Essentially, the underlying thing is not believing that I could do it. Yeah. So
it's the same thing in business. When business owners get stuck and frustrated, I have to step them back and have them understand why they got into that stuck position. And if we don't clear that, we'll never get to the next level.
That's a good point. I made that mistake early on in selling training, was to try and teach skills instead of the belief. And it's like we're talking about with the pricing, believing that you can charge what you charge.
Yeah.
So that was good. Why just asking why until it comes out?
I was in the same boat when I got into this coaching thing.
Yeah.
I had this price barrier in my mind because I stepped out of the accounting line, that if I charged $1,500 a month, people would balk.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my coach took me through the whole process a year later that I could suddenly increase my price. I was still, now it's like, this is your business, this is your problem, here's the price.
Yeah. There's Supreme, like this brand, and this like just a bat, and it's worth thousands of dollars. It's perception, really.
It is.
And I used to sell medical equipment, help people walk better.
Oh, right. Yep.
And there's thousands of dollars, and it it just really showed that my ability to explain the value and link it to their values and their vision and their why would actually be the determining factor on whether they would see the price as high or low, which is quite cool. But we're actually at 55 minutes.
Wow,
I think
that was quite quick.
Oh mate, you're a natural. So, closing remarks, like a point that you want these businesses that need more time, and then also how to find you.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things that business owners need to understand is it's about what they want to achieve in the longer term.
Yeah.
All right. A lot of the problems in their businesses, and I know they're going to probably think this is rubbish, are created by themselves.
Yeah.
They will just blame their staff.
Yeah, no.
But it's generally because they don't have the proper systems in place. And the most importantly, I found the communication system in their business in place. I end up spending a fair bit of time in helping getting people to understand how important it is to make sure that every aspect of the communication part of a system is fully communicated. Once that's in place, things start happening. And for your smaller businesses where business owners still do the accounting work and whatever, if they outsource that to a bookkeeper, they've suddenly got 2 to 3 hours a week either to spend with their family, because they might do it on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. So they've suddenly got that to spend with their family. Or if it's something that they do during the week, they've suddenly got 2 to 3 hours to go and sell more.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding where they want to go. And the second thing that they need to understand is every single business needs to be developed for sale. Whether you want to sell it or not is irrespective. But something might happen in your life at some stage where if it's ready for sale at any stage, the family, or I don't know, if you unfortunately get hit by a bus, the family can take that business and put it on the market and get a top dollar for it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's left where you are the main person that everybody relies on to do everything, it's virtually worthless.
Yeah. Good point. And how to find you?
Yeah, so Tibor McCaw, Better Business Strategies, www.bbstrategies.co.nz, or just Tibor at bbstrategies.co.nz.
Cool. All right, I'll leave in the description so they can find you.
Yep.
So thank you for the deep dive.
Yeah, no worries, Ryan. Thank you for the opportunity to have a chat.
That's all right, mate.
I hope I answered a few of your questions.
A lot of them, mate. You did well.